What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your daily astrology horoscope for Friday, December 6th, 2024. Astrologer Brian Scarborough here, fixed air moon, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope your week went well. It's my grandma's birthday today. Happy birthday, Grandma. She's not around anymore, but you know, good to wish your loved ones happy birthday. Um, Mars retrograde. Kind of funny that it stations at 3:33. I don't know if it's funny or not, but interesting synchronicity. But anyways, here we are. We're gonna get about a little less than 2.5 months of Mars retrograde. It's gonna retrograde at I think 17 degrees. What is it? Yeah, 17 degrees of Cancer. Yeah, 79 days, but it's gonna be February 23rd. And yeah, it's a long drawn out little backwards motion here for our ego, our drive, how we assert ourselves. And it really turns a lot of the masculine energy off. And this one's, a little bit harsher, in my opinion, because not only is it the ruler of the North Node, but for the remainder of the ruler of the North Node in Aries, it's a Mars retrograde, and Mars is going to come back into fall position of Cancer. So not like a super easy 2.5 months that we have in store for us here. Um, It's almost like too with Venus being with Pluto to start this off and dispositing the South Node. Like all of a sudden, some of these South Node qualities are kind of getting like supercharged, if you will, and like the energy is getting more and more sort of powerful, which is great. We love Venus. We love Venus very much. But in terms of like needing someone else to help you identify your path, or feeling like society's got to give you a push with Venus spending its final day here in Capricorn and with Pluto, like giving other people so much sort of power and authority isn't going to get you on the story that you want to be on, starting off, this retrograde and Sag season and a Mercury Cazimi that we just had, and sort of listening to our intuition and knowing our path here. All of a sudden, the knowing of our path becomes much more difficult. And even certain levels with our ego and our creative energy with Mars here in Leo can feel like it's taking a little bit of a back seat, but it's also internalizing. So we want to be comfortable with internalizing creative energy and what's moving forward. And maybe it's, and not maybe, it's important to kind of go over these things, to go over how we want to present ourselves, how we want to show ourselves, where our creative passions lie, where the fun energy in life is, and how we cultivate that from within ourselves. And then even when Mars starts to go back into Cancer, like really getting comfortable with almost like uncomfortable energy that's trying to move us forward, and not letting things scare us or feel unsafe or uncertain, but to feel very rooted in our being. So there's a lot of things that are going to get kind of touched up on here, and it's one of my least favorite transits is Mars retrograde. I just prefer the masculine energy to be chugging forward, and that's what Mars wants to do. Mars is the warrior planet, right? Aries, Mars, the Greek god Aries. Aries wants to go forward, and it doesn't want to stop. It wants to go in and it wants to take what it wants. It wants to hit its objective, follow its orders in some ways. Because it's kind of like that knight energy. It's not the king, but it is the great warrior. Well, now it's retreating from battle. It's almost like, okay, I've gone too far, and I know that I can't get any farther right now. I got to go recoup on my supplies. But now it's about more, not so much like get more infantry to go into the battle, right? It's much more about going back and making sure that we're solid and powerful and in a place where we can define where we need to go, and it can bring up sort of doubts and uncomfortable situations. And it's all very potent, and it's all very powerful, and all very necessary, so that we can get back to the front lines in our life and start chugging forward when next year comes. And February 23rd is Pisces season. It's the end of the astrological year, and we're going to come into spring when Mars does go after Mars goes direct. So definitely the last the last third of this year um, is a little bit maybe feeling a little unfulfilling at times, but internally it can feel very fulfilling, and it is recouping a lot of our energy, our stamina, um, our drive, so that we can really push in the spring. So kind of coming into this winter, um, having to do a lot of the inner empowerment work and not so much of the external empowerment work. And I hope that kind of gives people an idea. It's it's a hard one, and we're gonna oppose Pluto. And in 2021 we had Mars that went retrograde in Aries, and it squared Pluto in Capricorn. And like that's when they came out with the shot and the vaccine, and it was Saturn square Uranus. And now, we're coming up on Saturn sextile Uranus. So it's not like we're coming up into like such harshness of control, but we could be very vulnerable with this like super powered Venus and finishing up this south node in Libra. And we don't want to be vulnerable to conditioning from the outside, whatever that might look like, because I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I'm not even going to try to predict it. I don't really care. Um, but I do want everybody to think about themselves a lot and not get tied up in something that happens in the world, something that is correlated to another person, and you kind of giving up your strength for something else. Really internalize your strength right now, as best you can, and try to find the drive to push in your direction. Even though your direction, it might feel like you have to retreat from something in life, and it's like that might hurt the ego, and don't trip on that. You're having to retreat from something for a reason right now, and it's to get more inner supply to move forward. All right. So kind of a lot. But anyways, we're going to see a moon also today in Aquarius, which ironically enough, my lunar return happens right after a Mars station's retrograde. Sweet. Um, my moon's 24 Aquarius. 24. But helping us be objective and kind of peel back. I mean, these are things that can be very good. It can also be, very disconnected or hyper connected, and really wanting to feel comfortable with groups and friends, and trying to maybe innovate something in life. Venus and Pluto is going to try to maybe intensify connection in some way, especially with Venus about to come into Aquarius and finishing up in Capricorn. But we also want to be liberated too, to feel comfortable in being able to separate and break away and understand our own feelings and emotions, understand our own drive with Mars stationing, understand our own story with the sun here, which is starting to really oppose Jupiter. And the story can, feel consolidated, or it cannot feel like it's as expansive as maybe we were hoping for. And ideals can be getting questioned. And we want to really find a good balance of like the fact of the matter in life right now, peel back and be objective, but also still remain hopeful and still remain expansive, but more within ourselves, and knowing that that within and that belief will create the environment and the reality that we want to see grow and expand. But we have a lot of inner work to do right now. There's a lot of retrograde energy, Mercury, Mars, Neptune for a couple more days. Which, yeah, one more day for Neptune. Uranus, Jupiter. Like, there's a lot of gotta go inward to find strength and forward movement right now, instead of maybe trying to look so much outside or into society for guidance, or into partners for guidance. And, partners will guide you right now. They'll feel super empowered. Everybody's going to feel empowered to kind of be that like savior for another person. But that doesn't mean that like their version of saving is going to be your version of saving. And that might be where there's more confusion. So we want to be very emotionally intelligent today, be able to peel back, be able to find ourselves, be able to make good emotional decisions that are based on how we're trying to go into a future and innovate for an expanded quality of life and an intensified quality of life that we know we have to go inward for. and not outward. So big shift today, but also, the sun's starting to make a trine over to Chiron in Aries. And I think that that's very positive because a lot of the healing work right now is believing in ourselves. It's expanding from within and still being able to feel strong when maybe life makes us take steps back and we're not progressing like we wanted to progress, but we're still feeling strong in ourselves for lessons that are being learned and not being too hard on ourselves. So, yeah. And Moon's also going to square Uranus, right? So it's interesting kind of shifts on this Friday. Definitely can feel almost like stepping into a new story, but it's not really the story you had hoped for or idealized. And this is your future. And Aquarius is very unpredictable with Pluto here. So, it's cute to dream and have ideals, and I love that, and I do it too. And I hope we all continue to, but sometimes there's, you know, with Neptune getting ready to come online and leave Pisces and come into Aries, like it is going to show a lot of the cold hard truth, and there's a lot of like illusions that are going to get, dispersed and evaporated in our life, and we're kind of like starting to feel, oh, yeah, the future is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to have us start to create and innovate new ways. And we're kind of getting a nice shift of like, yeah, the old way that we were chugging forward is starting to change because we're having to be very adaptable to all sorts of different unique shifts and frequency changes. And they might not happen today, but they're going to start happening pretty much from here on out. This is like the big activation, in my opinion. Like getting Pluto in Aquarius for 20 years and then having Mars retrograde in opposition is a big activator. Mars is such an activator in the astrology and in the charts. So it's a big like inward frequency adaptation to where the future is going. And it's in, of course, Cancer and Leo, which deals heavily with our ego, with our creative expression, with knowing ourselves and being able to do something with it, but also feeling safe and feeling comfortable within ourselves or uncomfortable action, maybe, because it's new. And usually new things are uncomfortable until we do them, and then we become comfortable. We're getting faced with having to do things differently and move awkwardly because it's only awkward because we've never done it. But it's like anything. Once you learn to do it, it doesn't become awkward anymore. So we're getting a good look at how to do things differently. And we can start to feel the frequency shift today. And it can be jolting in some ways. And it can also be liberating. Some people, I think, have been like looking forward to this sort of vibrational shift to start showing up. And this is also where you can start to feel that and kind of see where you can move differently in your own life for your story. But don't, please, nobody like lose track of your vision and your story. It might look different. It might, you turn the chapter and all of a sudden it's like you weren't expecting the chapter to go a certain way, but it doesn't mean that that chapter is going to end, terribly either, right? So we just got to keep going through things and taking everything as a lot of inward, growth and strength that we're finding through having to kind of cover interesting bases. It's been a weird Mars shadow. There's a lot that's getting, rehashed and looked over, and we're resupplying in many ways for the big journey ahead and trying to build a base and a foundation to go on this quest. Because a lot of it is quest related, as we're in Sagittarius season to start it off, and we end it in Pisces season. So it's mutable start and finish for this retrograde for Mars. So the adaptability is key. Having faith is key, but you have to have faith through the story changing and like still be kind of hopeful that you want to keep going through the chapters right now. Because with Venus, with Pluto, you can also feel like you're being swept into a place that's uncomfortable or darker, or you're feeling extremely empowered and you want more control over certain situations. But we're also going to come into a South Node in Virgo, and trust me, control and perfection isn't going to get you anywhere either. But surrendering and letting things go and seeing what story God has in store, but you being powerful enough to act with the story, that is going to be the winner. And that's going to be kind of difficult for a lot of people because we want control. It makes us feel comfortable. But how much control do we ever really have? We get moments of it, and then, often we get humbled and realize things are going to happen how they're going to happen. I hope you have a great day. Again, no reason today can't be a good day. There's no reason tomorrow can't be a good day. It's all very inward. Everything's very inward. Like how you identify with what's going on in your life, your environment, your relationships, your world, the world around you, um, and how you deal with those things is going to make your day good or bad, right? If something in the world happens and it, you know, absolutely destroys you and it has nothing to actually do with you in your life, well, then, yeah, you're going to have a bad day and like you're getting swept up. You're letting something else control your empowerment. If somebody in your life is, going through it and they project it onto you and you're going to take that on as yours and you're going to let that ruin your day, then yeah, that's going to make your day bad. But if you kind of go about your business and go about your lessons and can kind of be more objective and see that what's happening outside of you with people, like you can be there to be helpful and be supportive and hold space, of course, but like we just can't be, we're super vulnerable right now. And that's where we have to be inwardly very strong. And that's, I guess, the message I'm trying to put out there for people. Because, there's no defenses and we're retreating and our backs to the war now, whether we're in a war or not. But like sometimes going through life is kind of like a war. And our backs are turned to it and we're not able to defend ourselves. And things can come in and get us really quick. Or like Forrest Gump, we can get shot in the buttocks. Ah. But he got to become friends with Lieutenant Dan and eat ice cream, and he loved that. And Forrest Gump's a kind of a weird example, and I never thought I'd talk about that right now, but it didn't bother him. He made a friend and got to eat ice cream. Lieutenant Dan, on the other hand, was a grumpy bastard because he lost his legs. Didn't want to talk or live anymore. It's very symbolic. I didn't think I would go there, but think about that. Love you guys. Hope everybody has a great day. I hope everybody has a great life. Just, we're shifting, even in human design, we're shifting out of such a tribal gate and a tribal energy into a very individualized, independent place. And that's even Aquarius. And like, we can't innovate for the world and be humanitarian if we don't find ourselves first, or we just become another number and another, person in a single file line. And there's going to be people that just line up in single file and rebel from their own nature to rebel. And then there's people who are going to be like, we got to make things better and we can't keep doing it the same way. And that takes courage and that takes knowing yourself and making your own decisions. So keep all that in mind. Keep a positive mindset about everything that happens. Try to really pay attention to you and what you're doing, how you're being helpful, how you're being of service, how you're being creative. Because that's what's going to matter the most. Otherwise, you're going to feel like you got shot in the butt by something. Card for Mars retrograde is the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. One of my favorite cards of reaching victory and having all the things that we want. Well, okay. The only way to have everything we want right now is to go inwardly and find that like magic to create and to not expect it to just be there. It's almost like, it's almost like really like reaching the end of something. Um, and having to like really go inward to kind of re-manifest and like rebuild that foundation of what your goals are, what you want to achieve in life. Like, what is the pinnacle of what you want? And I think it's like being okay with that changing and not letting it like hurt you. That like, maybe 5 years ago you had a 5 year plan, but maybe that 5 year plan it was never in the cards. I don't want to sound like too like, I don't know, down about like, it's not like, it's just a little bit more difficult. But I think you'll find that when you go inward and reevaluate what you actually want, you're going to find that you're innovating and really like inventing new and better. So it's almost like the goals you thought you wanted were shooting small and they didn't really matter. And now things are going to start to matter. So it's just that the adaptability and being able to move differently and more inwardly right now is just going to be very prominent for everybody. So I love you guys. Hope you have a great day. Hope this is helpful. And see you for the weekend forecast tomorrow. Much love. Peace.